Hello, and welcome back to the Weekly Show. I'm Moha Katyal, and next on our show is former Supreme Court Judge Sandra Day O'Connor and her brother Horace Allen Day with their new book, Lazy Bee. Mr. Day.
Hi, Mo.
Mrs. O'Connor. In your book, you described how you grew up in a small farm in Arizona. What was that like?
You know, had you seen us in our earlier years, we wouldn't have looked like a very well-to-do family. We didn't have a lot of money because a ranch wasn't the best method of income.
Yeah, even though we had easy jobs as young children because my father and grandfather took care of the dangerous jobs, it was still a tremendous amount of responsibility. It was still a peaceful life and all, and my mother and grandmother usually watched the house while they cleaned it. It just seemed like an average life in the beginning.
Having grown up on a farm, how did being together with your family form a bond between the two of you and your parents?
Being together every day really made us a strongly bonded family. Besides that, it was our love for our religion that kept us very close together. Being Christian, we felt that God kept our cattle healthy and would continue the success of our farm. Even though this idea was central to all of us, my parents felt that my love for my religion shined the brightest.
And with me, I was very close to my father. He encouraged me and taught me how to basically live on a farm and raise cattle. I really wouldn't have had a successful life without him because he taught me everything I needed to know when I grew up and owned my own farm.
What made you want to attend school, and how did moving to Texas affect your family life since you saw them very little?
Really, I had always liked to reason with people. I was very passionate about my schoolwork, really, and when my parents got enough money to send one child to school, they chose me. I ended up staying with my maternal grandmother in Austin, Texas for most of my life. Though spending time with my grandmother created a strong bond between us, I often missed my parents and my siblings at home. But I did enjoy the quality time I had with her. I also had a lot of fun at school with my friends, and I knew if I had a proper education, that I'd provide a lot for my family who were not doing so well at the time.
So, Mr. Day, after Sandra left, what was the family life like without her? And did this affect your decision of becoming a rancher?
Life was certainly very different without her. I did get to spend more time with my younger sister Anne, but the workload between Anne and me was dramatically increased. We often thought of Sandra, and we dearly missed her, but it was evident that my focus needed to be on the family farm because we were one less body and, well, we needed to work more. This is honestly the point that I realized how much I loved the ranch and why I wanted to become a farmer. But, I mean, we still missed her.
Did your parents affect your decision to choose your various fields of occupation?
It was actually my grandmother who had a really great influence on me. While staying with her, she taught me what was right and what was wrong. And it was from her I became very interested in politics. She was very encouraging to me and very supportive, and helped me write my letter to Stanford, where I ended up going.
And our father really had a great influence on me. As you know, he ran the farm when we were kids and I run the farm now. But he taught me how to farm, he taught me everything I know about farming, and he taught me how to run the cattle. He was very inspirational and just acted as my role model for my entire life until, unfortunately, he passed away.
Sandra, what was it like to go to Stanford, one of the most prestigious schools in the country?
The opportunity to attend Stanford was an incredible honor. There was a lot of work to be done, and at times could be stressful. With this said, I had already finished 6 of my class at Austin High School and had amazing potential. My future already seemed so bright. I knew immediately that I had to accept the offer to Stanford since it was a top 5 school at the time. When I began attending Stanford, I found interest in my law classes, which then led me to the field of law. Once I graduated, I began getting involved in the law and the courts of the United States.
So, how did you become a Supreme Court Justice?
At Stanford University, I served on the Stanford Law Review and worked with Supreme Court Justice Chief William Rehnquist. After being rejected by 40 offices, I worked without salary as a deputy county attorney in San Mateo, California. Soon after, I was appointed to the Arizona Senate. Later, it was near the time Ronald Reagan was campaigning for president that he promised to appoint a female as a Supreme Court Associate Justice. That's how I joined the Supreme Court.
Now that you've both had successful lives, how do you think your childhood had an effect on you?
Our childhood was great. We enjoyed growing up in a tight family like ours. My parents, especially my dad, helped me with learning how to take care of the cattle and how to raise a farm and how to manage a large area of land like that. My childhood has taught me not to do things that I had previously messed up on or made mistakes. It has taught me how to work with other people because when I was younger, I worked with my other siblings and my parents, which was, trust me, not the easiest.
Well, I know when I was younger, my parents encouraged me to go to school in Austin. My grandmother was very inspirational in my upbringing. She was a very smart woman and knew how to talk to me on a regular basis about anything troubling me or anything I needed to know for school. This helped me with being able to talk to other people and communicate in college, which I use in the real world. Living with her and talking with her every day led me to want to go to the field of law when I was attending high school.
Sandra, in your interview with Jon Stewart, you describe your experiences in the Supreme Court and how secretive they are.
The Supreme Court as being very cloistered from the public, kind of in their darkened chambers, and there's no TV, they're not televised trials. Would they ever do that? Would they ever think about that?
They aren't televised now, and it would require agreement of the justices to do that. And it may come to that someday, but it hasn't so far. In fact, some of the television stations had big, arms like you'd see in construction sites with a camera right outside the windows of justices. And they were parked out.
Was that tough for you, considering you have generally been an open person?
At first, it was actually very difficult for me. Everywhere I went, I felt judged and looked down upon as a woman in my position. It is certainly a situation that the men of the Supreme Court would not know how to handle because as a woman, you are looked down upon as a vulnerable and less powerful being, and my opinion wasn't as valued as much as the men's. Even with that feeling constantly hanging over my head, I was not going to give up my position. I worked far too hard to give it all up. I knew, having gotten this new position, women all over the world would look up to me as their idol and hope.
Alright, thanks guys. Thanks for coming here. And next on our show, the Queen of England. Is her hair real or is it a wig?